Okay, so you're starting the IB Visual Arts course, and you're staring down the Art-Making Inquiries portfolio. I know, it can feel like this huge, intimidating thing, but it really doesn't have to be. So let's dive right in and break down how you can turn this whole task into a really powerful and honestly, super rewarding creative journey.
First things first, you have to get this idea out of your head that your creative process is going to be a straight line. It's just not, you know? The guide compares it to an octopus with tentacles reaching out in all these different directions at once. It's supposed to be complex, it's supposed to be a little messy, and that's a good thing. So what we're going to do here is give you 4 key pillars that will provide the structure you need to navigate all that beautiful complexity.
All right, let's get into it. Pillar number 1, fueling your inquiry engine. This right here is the absolute foundation of everything. You have to remember your portfolio isn't just a collection of pretty pictures, it's a documented investigation. And it's all driven by the powerful questions you ask yourself.
At the heart of this whole thing is what we call a line of inquiry. The best way to think about it is like a thread that you follow. It's what connects all your experiments, your research, and ultimately your finished artworks. And what gets that whole journey started? It's your inquiry questions. They are the sparks that light the fire.
So, what does a question like that actually look like? Well, here's a fantastic example right from the guide. In what ways have you transformed an idea to make something new? See how great that is? It's not a yes or no question. It immediately makes you think about your process, about synthesis, about your own unique choices as an artist. This is the kind of engine that will drive a really high-quality portfolio.
Now, once you've got that engine running, it leads us right into pillar number 2, exploring your creative playground. This is where you get your hands dirty. It is all about making stuff, experimenting, taking risks, and, this is so important, documenting that entire process as you go.
A really key requirement here is variety. But what does that word actually mean in this context? Well, the guide is super clear about it. You have to work with at least 2 different art-making forms. That's the minimum. So you could do painting and digital art, or maybe sculpture and printmaking. The combo is totally up to you.
And you actually have a choice in how you tackle that variety. You can go for breadth, which means you explore several different forms and creative strategies, but maybe a little more on the surface. Or you can aim for depth, where you really dive deep into just a couple of forms. Both ways are perfectly valid. It's all about figuring out which approach best serves your specific line of inquiry. Okay, listen up, because this might be the most important aha moment you have. Your visual arts journals, they are your private creative playground. They are not directly assessed. Let me say that again because it's crucial. Your journals are not assessed. This is on purpose. It's designed to give you total psychological freedom to experiment, to fail, to be messy, and to just be completely authentic without worrying for a second about what grade you're going to get on those pages.
And you'll notice the word is journals, plural. This isn't about keeping one single pristine sketchbook. Now, way. Your documentation can be a whole bunch of things. A classic sketchbook, sure, but also a digital folder filled with screenshots and mood boards, a simple notebook for your thoughts, or even just a box filled with little material experiments. You've got to find what works for you and your process.
All right, on to pillar number 3, learning from other artists. You know, no artist creates in a vacuum. A huge skill you're going to develop here is investigating the work of other artists to inform, to challenge, and ultimately to elevate your own creative work. This quote, it comes directly from the top level of the assessment criteria, the highest marks. And the most important word in there is synthesizes. The goal isn't just to look at other artists or, copy their style. It's about taking what you've learned from them, their ideas, their techniques, how they use materials, and then weaving it meaningfully into your own developing style. This slide shows that difference perfectly. A low-scoring approach is when it's a really literal or obvious copy, like just painting a sunflower exactly in the style of Van Gogh. But a high-scoring approach, that's when you've transformed that influence. Maybe you study Van Gogh's use of thick paint, that impasto, to show emotion, and then you apply that technique to your own subject like a cityscape at night. See? That's synthesis. It's all about inspiration, not imitation.
And of course, this comes with a really important responsibility. Academic integrity. You have to always acknowledge the artists who have influenced your work. It doesn't matter if it's a direct reference or just a conceptual starting point. Giving credit where credit is due is absolutely essential, and it keeps you clear of any plagiarism issues.
And that brings us to our 4th and final pillar, curating your visual story. Because after all that questioning and experimenting, you have to actually select and refine your work to tell a clear and compelling story of your investigation for the final portfolio.
Now, refinement isn't just about cleaning things up at the end. It's an active, ongoing cycle. You experiment with something. You get feedback from your friends and your teacher. You actively intervene and make deliberate changes, and then you work to resolve the piece. Showing evidence of this back-and-forth cycle proves you have a really mature artistic practice.
So, when you're putting it all together, what's the balance supposed to be? Well, this chart makes it pretty darn clear. This portfolio is overwhelmingly about your visual evidence, your images, your experiments, your art. The written text, which has a strict maximum of 3,000 words, is only there to support and clarify what we're seeing. Your images have to do all the heavy lifting.
So as you're curating, as you're choosing what goes in, please remember this. You are not just showing off your best, most polished final pieces. You are telling the story of your development. The examiners, they want to see the journey. They want to see the experiments that failed, the reflections, the refinements, everything that led to your unique artistic style finally emerging.
So let's tie all 4 of these pillars together, shall we? Your inquiry, your exploration in that creative playground, your investigation of other artists, and your whole process of refinement. All of it, every piece is working towards one ultimate goal: developing your own personal visual language.
So what even is a visual language? Well, it's your unique artistic voice. It's that whole collection of skills, techniques, and ideas you master that lets you express yourself to an audience in a way that's effective, meaningful, and completely personally you. That's what you're building this whole time.
So let's just recap the biggest takeaways here. 1. Start with strong, open-ended inquiry questions. 2. Embrace variety, at least 2 art-making forms. 3. Use those journals as your fearless space to experiment. 4. Learn to synthesize, not just copy, the influence of other artists. 5. Show your process of refinement, not just the finished thing. And finally, number 6. Above all else, let your powerful visual evidence tell the story.
And that leaves us with one final, and I think pretty empowering question for you to take with you. As you start this whole journey, just think about this. How will you combine images, forms, and ideas to create your unique story? The path is totally yours to create. Now go make something amazing.